If you want to change someone's perception of concepts or an industry, it all comes down to how you present everything related to it. The reason a lot of cities are car-centric towns rather than people-centric towns is thanks to the idea that everyone needs to have a car. Similarly, when workers go on strike, the media is quick to side with corporations and frame the issue in a consumer manner. They'll talk about the things that us as consumers are losing due to the strike, and never go into the reason why the workers are striking. Typically because someone at the very top, usually the CEO, wants a bigger cut of the revenue and doesn't believe that the employees deserve a more livable wage or better working conditions. The self-help industry is, of course, no exception to this rule, where framing issues and presenting ideas can be more deliberate. We see this with simple advice and how that's preferred over something like more details or presenting multiple options and avenues for someone to take. But I haven't really talked about specific concepts in the self-help industry. And the one that I really want to be focusing on is the idea that we should be constantly growing as individuals. Because while gurus paint this as this fantastic idea that everyone should be striving for in their own lives, it creates far more problems the more that you actually think about that, and in the ways that you least expect it to. So let's talk about that and what we should be doing moving forward in our own journeys. As I just said before, the concept as a whole seems very nice. Constantly growing and improving yourself, always number going up. It's very similar to hustle culture, as the immediate reaction that you would be getting from someone that's criticizing it is, do you hate improvement and growth? And my answer to that is no, of course not.
Éxito.
Obviously, right?
Silly me.
But it pays to ask the question, why do conversations around improvement are framed in this particular way, that we should be constantly growing and improving ourselves? Because on one side, I absolutely get it. Everyone can agree that growing and improving oneself is a very good thing. Numbers going up, getting closer to your goals, the dopamine rush of achieving something good, there is really nothing to dislike about it.
That's good.
But like with everything else, there are other sides to these concepts. There are other approaches that you could be taking. There are certain drawbacks that are well worth considering in any kind of situation, even some of the ideas that I have proposed plenty of times across this channel. And in the case of constant growth, some of the major drawbacks that I found feeds into more of these perfectionist tendencies, which brings in just a whole host of other bad behavior that can hold you back in so many different ways.
This is the worst!
The first of those kinds of drawbacks is that it's easier to keep you in a loop rather than actually growing when we believe in constant growth. In the scenario, you become one of two people. Either you are someone who tries out a guru's methods or techniques, fails, and blames yourself for the failure and give up or keep trying, or you manage to find some success through those methods, but you find more problems in your life as a result of all of this. For sure, life is filled with problems and we will never run out of those so long as we have desires and goals and ambitions. But your perception and the behavior surrounding those things is different based on your belief of constant growth. For the person who fails, it reinforces this idea that they're a loser and will never find success in their pursuit.
That means?
No. What?
It means you have no skills and you're a loser!
There might be some passion in the avenues that you're trying to strive for, but when there's an opportunity to follow through, you might hesitate or back down because of previous failures or just bad experiences from the growth that you have achieved.
Emotional, damn it!
For the person that does actually succeed in these tactics, it could create more of an unhealthy obsession while trying to achieve more of that one thing without considering the consequences. For example, making $1 million is generally a nice pursuit. It's one thing to build a side hustle and strive towards that and making a nice workplace than it is to build that exact same thing, underpay all of your staff and screw them over, and giving yourself big bonuses and make several more millions while your employees are barely getting by and are subservient to you. The issue with a lot of those loops in self-help is that they tend to drag out the worst in people without people actually realizing that until they're really immersed in that and everyone around them starts to really recognize that.
Everything you do matters to Max, and everything you don't do.
All right, now let me tell you something. I'm a bad father.
It doesn't give you the pause to reflect on who you are becoming and who you really want to be. And there's a big disconnection in who you want to be and who you actually want to be. And speaking of which, it leads into my next drawback of the fact that it narrows our thinking. Not pausing to contemplate on our growth or lack thereof only reinforces a very narrow-minded way of thinking that keeps us in those loops in the first place. If it's you and your next problem, or the problem that's been kicking your ass for the past several weeks, months, or even years.
Well, bubbleheads, just you and me.
It creates a situation where things essentially amount to one thing or the other. On one end, it makes focusing on tasks pretty simple, but not all of our problems or attempts can be neatly organized into one specific outcome. You can gain valuable experience from something even when things don't really turn out the way that you want them to. Not to mention there are more valuable life lessons that are buried in the failures that we experience. The issue with constant growth is that it can lead us to looking at situations the wrong way. Instead of trying to find various lessons and soothe ourselves from our failures, we look at failures as reasons we suck at something, and use that to bash ourselves or to criticize other people and project. Sometimes we become way too critical of ourselves in the process. And in the case of people that do actually succeed, again, from that constant growth belief, it can lead to the sense of narcissism that we see among some of the elite individuals in the world. This idea that they got into those positions in the first place is absurd when we consider many of them were enabled by people working underneath them and making the business run smoothly, and not to mention getting small loans of millions of dollars from affluent individuals. Yes, they have built the momentum that they needed to start the business and get into where they are right now. But without some people helping them out along the way, offering those small $1 million loans or guiding them to some point, they would absolutely be stuck. And the fact that they don't really recognize that or show any appreciation to the people that enable their riches in the first place is pretty telling that these people are not really great people that we should really be following. And not to mention that the success stories and the origin stories that they always tell or that other people present is pretty telling that the people in the background are literally people in the background that don't get mentioned at all. And this leads to my final drawback, the fact that we keep on losing the plot if we believe in constant growth. And the proof of this particular drawback is actually looking at some of the wealthiest people that we have around and simply just looking at their own lives. Because while success stories from a variety of people paint these individuals as these empathetic leaders or people that know what they're talking about, or very inspiring individuals that we should be striving for. If we actually spend some time looking at who they actually are and seeing how they engage on social media or in other forms, we see there is a very distinct disconnection between who they actually are and how those articles and videos present them to be. A good example of this is looking at two particular figures, J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk. J.K. Rowling's success story made her look like she was the starving artist who made it big and showed persistence, and her beliefs in her books were actually great. In reality, her social media is plagued with turf nonsense, and her brain is rotting due to the fact that there's mold growing in the castle that she's living in, and that is affecting her. Not to mention, the Harry Potter series, as much as it made an impression to my teenage self, it's still a pretty bare bones and bland book revolving around magic. Elon Musk, on the other hand, is presented to be this man of great emotional intelligence and understanding, and is this brilliant innovator and a fantastic father to so many children. And it's hilarious because none of that is true whatsoever. Yeah, sure, he has so many different companies, but he doesn't really manage them all that much. And it's ridiculous to assume that this guy has emotional intelligence when he fired so many federal workers, cut foreign aid to impoverished countries, as well as screwed over plenty of other individuals' life savings when he was manipulating cryptocurrencies and trying to get people more involved in all of that stuff. He's not exactly a very empathetic man when his own daughter wants nothing to do with him. Picture, not to mention that he is still single in all of this and has gone through multiple marriages, multiple girlfriends who just do not want to be dealing with him or are reaching out to him in his DMs trying to get him to pay for child support.
That's rough, buddy.
The point that I'm trying to make is striving to be those kinds of individuals is part of the course if you're someone that believes in constant growth and constant improvement. It's natural to see yourself to some degree in those individuals, and even to some lesser extent as well. And it's discouraging because at the end of the day, those two individuals and plenty of other people are doing a lot of harm and creating a lot of problems. And wanting to be more like those individuals just isn't really feasible for people to be striving for. And using those as examples kind of does a disservice for the self-help industry as a whole. It leads to this big disconnection where behavior is very predictable and it's very isolating, and leaves people vulnerable to more regressive views when they believe in constant growth and are striving to be those kinds of individuals. So with all those drawbacks in mind, and knowing that this mindset is not that helpful, what can we really do about all of this? What can we do to genuinely grow? Well, the answer is simple, but the execution is challenging. It's all about figuring out what is enough for you and going out to achieve it.
What? What does that have to do with it?
No. He's got a point.
Why this can be challenging comes down to setting your own goals, which always is difficult. However, there is a big difference between knowing we've grown enough in a certain area and always seeking the upward trend and trying to seek more and more. The biggest being that it keeps your lifestyle more balanced, and figuring out what your own genuine values, goals, and ambitions actually are can protect you from all of those hype tactics that a lot of self-help gurus place onto people. I wouldn't call the strategy overall a perfect and flawless thing, as your own wants and needs shift around as time goes on, and that you get older and you start to value different things, and you have different priorities. But it still recognizes that at some point, chasing this constant growth and this constant upward trend and optimizing your life at every opportunity to ensure that you're getting the most out of this can create more of this unhealthy loop for you, and it makes you worse as a person rather than improving it. Everyone has their own flaws. Everyone makes mistakes. It's better overall to be more adaptive and let your own values and goals steer you. And if you really don't like that, spend some time actually reflecting and figuring out where you want to go, where you want to be going from here, from this point. At the end of the day, the more that you make yourself independent in this and you focus on your own growth and making it your own, the more likely that you'll be growing in a more authentic way. And that is more important than constantly growing. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future, and also to leave a like on this video, because that really helps me out a lot. Thank you guys. I love you.